Peace. This is about Stephen King has written another new ending to The Stand. But do we need it? Well, as you can see here in the picture is Stephen King himself. He is one of the masters of horror. And of course, I love all Stephen King movies. My most favorite one is The Stand and Pet Sematary. So they are my most favorite movies of all. Stephen King fans, gather ye here. Our Lord and Master has written a new ending to The Stand, his story of a post-apocalyptic world disseminated by a superflu that he has called a long tale of dark Christianity. So Stephen King had wrote a new ending to the post-apocalyptic world disseminated by a superflu, allegedly. And of course, he had called it a long tale of dark Christianity. King wrote the new coda that won't be found in the book for the forthcoming TV adaptation starring James Marsden and Amber Heard. CBS's Julie McNamara told Deadline that for fans of the book who have wondered what became of the survivors of The Stand, this episode will contain a story that takes us beyond the book to answer those questions. So King wrote the new coda, and it won't be found in the book, of course, for the forthcoming TV adaptation. For fans of the book who have wondered what became of the survivors of The Stand. Yeah, we don't know what happened to the survivors of the movie The Stand. We don't know what happened to them. Nobody knows if they have lived, they have died, or what. So we don't know what happened to them. And of course, this episode will contain a story that takes us beyond the book to answer those questions. So it's going to go beyond the book so that the questions could be answered. King himself has tweeted that his script for the final episode is already written and that it has been in my mind for 30 years. So Stephen King had tweeted his script out, and of course it was already written and that it has been in his mind for 30 years. So that's a long time to keep it on your mind for 30 years. But The Stand, in which the scant American survivors of the superflu are drawn towards the sanity Mother Abigail, if they're good, and towards the evil Randall Flagg, if they're bad, already has two endings. The first appeared in the original 800-page version published in 1978, set in the 1980s. That version ends as two survivors, Stu and Fran, contemplate the future of humanity. So, alright, The Stand, in which the scant American survivors of the superflu were drawn towards sanity, saintly to Mother Abigail. And of course, Mother Abigail was the good one, and Randall Flagg, he was the evil one. So everybody who followed Mother Abigail, they have done things right. Everybody who followed Randall Flagg has done evil things to try to destroy the good. And of course, evil never wins, so it's obviously. The first appeared in the original 800-page version published in 1978. It was the first appeared in the original 800-page version. So believe me, I have read the book, because I have it, and it took me months to read it until I finally got through it. With Stu and Fran, we don't know if they survived or if they passed on or what? Do you think people over there over ever learning anything? I'm sorry. She opened her mouth to speak, hesitated, fell silent. The kerosene lamp flickered. Her eyes seemed very blue. I don't know, she said at last. She seemed unpleased with her answer. She struggled to say something more to eliminate her first response and could only say it again. I don't know. So this is the script from a page of the movie Stephen King's The Stand. It is also from the movie, obviously, but this is what he wrote, and this is how Fran should have been feeling about Stu, because she was in love with him, and of course Stu's ex-girlfriend wasn't too pleased with Fran being with Stu, so she went on a crazy rampage somewhere. But Fran and Stu finally got together, they got married, they had a kid together, and everything else. It is bleak but honest. King says in On Writing, I searched my mind and heart for something else Stu could say, some clarifying statement. I wanted to find it because at that moment, if at no other, Stu was speaking for me in the end. However, Stu simply repeats what he has already said. I don't know. It was the best I could do. Sometimes the book gives you answers, but not always, and I didn't want to leave the readers who had followed me through hundreds of pages with nothing but some empty platitude I didn't believe myself. So yeah, of course, Stephen King, he's saying on Writing, I searched my mind and heart for something else Stu could say. So he was searching pretty much in his mind of what he could get Stu to say to Fran. Of course, clarifying, I wanted to find it because at that moment, if at no other, Stu was speaking for me. So he was speaking for Fran, I guess. And of course, Fran has been sick, and of course she got better. She was feeling sick on and off, obviously, until she finally got rid of whatever it was. And it's just a crazy story of what you could expect from the book or the movie. But that version of the novel was missing 400 odd pages, cut because King's publisher at the time couldn't physically print such a large manuscript. By 1991, King was with another publisher who could sew an uncut 1,200-page version set in the 1990s was released, with a new and more ominous coda. This time, Flag has survived the hand of God nuclear explosion and been transported to an island peopled by a primitive, simple, unlettered people. He starts again. So there was 400 odd pages missing. So we don't know what happened after, beyond the surviving of Stu and Fran. Alright, so King's publisher at the time couldn't physically print such a large manuscript. So it was I don't know how many pages Stephen King wrote, but it was 800 plus pages. So, and whatever was not printed for the book, something had to happen, but we don't know what it is. By 1991, King was with another publisher who could sew an uncut 1,200-page version set in the 1990s. So Stephen King was pretty much with another publisher after a while, because the publisher he had before that couldn't print such a large manuscript. So Stephen King said, okay, I'm just going to go to another publisher, and sure enough, he did. And of course, Flagg has survived the hand of God nuclear explosion allegedly and been transported to an island peopled by a primitive, simple, unlettered people. He starts again. Of course, we know he starts his mess all over again. I'll be honest, I'm wary of whatever happens here. I watched but didn't love the 1994 miniseries of The Stand, and while I still count King as one of my favorite writers, I haven't generally loved anything he's written since 2008's Duma Key, and I wonder how much will change in the journey from book to television. 5 years ago, a draft script reportedly had Stu and Flagg engage in a magical Akira-like battle on the Las Vegas Strip. Please, Mother Abigail, no. So, of course, Stephen King was a little worried, or somebody, whoever it was, saying that Stephen King was one of their favorite writers. So I don't know if it's a man, a woman who said this, or what. I don't know. So I can't say for sure. Of course, the person said, I haven't generally loved anything he's written since 2008's Duma Key. Now, I have no idea what Duma Key is. I don't know if it's a movie, a book, or what. And of course, the person said, and I wonder how much will change in the journey from book to television. 5 years ago, it had gone to a draft script, reportedly. Stu and Flagg, they were supposed to be in a Las Vegas battle somewhere, and of course, Mother Abigail, they say, please, Mother Abigail, no. So I guess Stephen King is trying to change things around a little bit. In his introduction to the 1991 version of The Stand, King wrote that it's perhaps best for Stu, Larry, Glenn, Franny, Ralph, Tom Cullen, Lloyd, and that dark fellow to belong to the reader, who will visualize them through the lens of imagination in a vivid and constantly changing way no camera can duplicate. Films, even the best of them, freeze fiction. That is not necessarily bad, but it is limiting. So the 1991 version of The Stand, King wrote that it perhaps best for Stu, Larry, Glenn, Franny, Ralph, Tom Cullen, Lloyd, and that dark fellow, which is Randall Flagg himself, to belong to the reader. And of course, the readers, yeah, we pretty much understand what's going on, but not too much, because there's 400 more pages missing. So, and because of Stephen King's publisher before that couldn't print out that much manuscript for it or anything. For the third and new ending, perhaps King has found the answers he was looking for 30 years ago when wondering what Stu might say. Or maybe CBS will simply spool out the stories of Stu and Fran into the future, revealing whether humanity has won after all. I watched that for sure, particularly if Mr. Moon makes an appearance. In the meantime, a reread of The Stand is definitely in order before his novel, a masterpiece in my opinion, is frozen in King's words by its adaptation. Who's with me? So, Tom Cullen, of course, he couldn't say words that he wanted to say. He just always spelled out M-O-O-N, moon. And of course, Tom Cullen may have a mind of a child, maybe. I'm not saying for sure that he did or did not. But he was always spelling out M-O-O-N. And hopefully he'll make an appearance. If not, I don't know. But Stephen King has now found the answers he was looking for 30 years ago. 30 years ago, that's a long time that it took him this long to find what he was looking for. Or maybe CBS will simply spool out the stories of Stu and Fran into the future. So maybe it could have happened, maybe it couldn't have happened. Who knows with Stu and Fran? Maybe they had done something in the future. I don't know, but you know how things are. Anything could happen in the movies or in the books. Leave your comments below. I am out.